Today we're speaking about the legal process outsourcing market in the UK and in Europe and perhaps globally as well. And I'm today speaking with Will Taborn, who's the founder and one of the directors of Taborns, who I will give the floor to introduce himself in a second. But the reason why we're speaking and discussing legal process outsourcing today is obviously it's a huge market. It has grown a lot in recent years. I was looking at statistics recently, and while there is a lot of statistics going on the internet, the one report last year, I think, suggested that legal process outsourcing market globally will grow tenfold to over $100 billion. So we are here to discuss that. And Will, could you please, first of all, just talk about your experience and what you do in the legal process outsourcing
Yeah,
space?
hi there, Alex. Thank you for the invite, and it's good to be here. So my background is that I started life as a barrister's clerk for about 20 odd years. And anybody who's listening in the legal space will know what that is. It doesn't need explaining. It's a very, very shady role within the legal profession. I was lucky enough to be in some of the top sets in the country, along being the clerk to the AG. I was then asked to head up litigation and legal projects arm of a brand new multinational law firm, and we pioneered legal technology as well as providing the usual services that law firms provide to big corporates, such as FTSE 100s and 250s, and along with running some of the biggest civil litigation cases in the UK in the past 15 years. And essentially we had technology that allowed the GCs and the heads of legal to see who was doing what, when, and how long it was taking.
Thank you, Will. And I think since then you, as I mentioned in the introduction, you founded Taborns, and so what does Taborns do, and how do you do it? Who are your clients?
So what Taborns do is it's a turnkey solution, Alex, for professional services in the legal sector and beyond. So what we do is that we allow time-poor professionals, and I'll come back to that a bit later, to access a range of professional services in the sector, being described as Amazon for legal, as the service is an LPO, a legal process outsource, and it's called the LCO, the legal concierge outsource. How do we do it? We operate a secure portal, and that secure portal is something through which professionals can make requests, and it's secure, encrypted, it's off the email chain and platform, and it allows a professional to engage and request services quickly and easily. Probably begs the question why, and we do it because the legal profession, which is what we're talking about in this context, is a service industry. It's supplying service at the end of the day, and whatever role we're in, we are supplying a service. There's a lot of competition out there to provide this service, and there's a lot of places for clients to provide work. Taking all that into account in the round, we can drive some efficiency in the industry, and it helps firms operate in a more efficient and commercial way to better service their lay clients.
Thank you, Will. And just again, for context, your typical clients, are they UK based? Are they European based? Are they international?
Our typical clients, Alex, are all over the world. It started in the UK. We work in the UAE, across all parts of the UAE, India, and also the Caribbean.
Thank you, Will. That's very interesting. And so, again, I appreciate that our audience is they're legal professionals, but I think it would still help to perhaps define what legal process outsourcing is. Again, just for context.
Legal process outsourcing. What is it? Simply put, it's dedicating legal work to external providers to increase efficiency and hopefully reduce costs. This could be a simple document review to legal research to deployment of more complex offerings like technology. It really has changed in recent years as more and more services come under that bracket and offer not just paralegals, which is the traditional one, but expert witnesses, translation, transcription, risk management services, and also e-discovery.
So, Will, thank you for explaining what LPO is. And again, just to place this LPO service in context, what kind of efficiencies are you targeting? Perhaps what kind of inefficiencies within the legal sector are you trying to address?
There's a lot of wastage, Alex, generally accepted in the legal sector. There's waste time, I mean, across all commercial sectors, but there is a lot of waste, and it's getting law firms to work more commercially, working in a way that their clients appreciate. As an example, one of the reasons that created the legal concierge outsource and created Taborns was because a study showed, I think it was run by the American Institute of Psychology fairly recently, and it showed that 30% of the working day is lost due to unproductive work. And so improving the efficiency in service delivery it should be a key driver for a firm. Taking that 30% in the legal context and the billable hour, if we go to that sort of structure, that can be a lot of money over time. And more than the money, a lot of inefficiency. So that's one of the key drivers for creating what we created, and allowing the fee earner partner in the law firm to concentrate on more complex, higher value and work, and less on the non-strategic, if I can say, menial, low-level tasks, will help them across the board.
Thanks, Will. That's incredible. 30% of time wasted. That's a lot. It makes me also reflect on my day and how much time how efficiently I use my time during the day as well. No, absolutely. That's very interesting. Thank you. Could we talk about the you work globally, but you said that you started in the UK, obviously. What is this current status of the UK market? How big is the market in the UK for legal process outsourcing?
Current size of the market of legal process outsourcing, or we'll shorten it to LPO for these purposes. I think first, to put it into context, Alex, you need a figure on the UK legal market as a whole and its role globally. Revenue generated by legal activities in the UK hit its highest level last year, and it generated something in the region of 44 billion in this past year. That figure was up 8% from the previous year, and it's a significant contributor to the UK economy, and it's the second biggest in the world behind the USA. But the LPO market contributed something in the region of 130 million in the UK market in the past year. So you can see that it's actually growing, and it's projected to grow larger.
You've talked about, Will, so you've talked about the UK market, and where do you see most of the demand these days? Is it in the UK? There is obviously, you said that the market is continuing to grow, but where do you see the highest demand? Is it in the UK? Is it in Europe? Is it in the UAE, as you mentioned?
I think it's across the whole world, Alex. When you look at the USA and the UK being the largest two legal economies, if you like, we are already making steps and significant steps ahead of the rest of the world. I think when you put this into the context of the rest of Europe, the UAE, then they are going to react quickly. And let's not forget, there are a lot of law firms that are global. So this is going to be taken up quite significantly in the next few years. And also, we all know how many disputes and litigations end up in the UK because of the fairness and equality of the UK legal market.
Absolutely. That's UK is still one of the key global dispute resolution centers around the world, obviously. Again, Will, just from the point of view of understanding the market, what types of LPO services do you see the most demand for, whether that's in the UK or globally?
So the types of services that get outsourced UK and globally, there are some common themes, as there always are with these things, and ones that aren't, but really should be. So transcription, translation, paralegal resource, they're strong. Expert witnesses are strong too, because they can really turn a case. And we personally find that construction experts are a huge commodity, and ones that we delivered globally and been asked to deliver globally. And again, it goes back to the fact that the UK expert witness market is world renowned. E-discovery is another one. There's a misnomer that e-discovery is just for litigation. It's for all matters contentious and non. So for any firm looking to deliver efficiency and retain talent by making life easier, and more on that a little bit later, in my view, it is a must. Too many firms say this is always the way we've done it, and they don't want to change, but there's now more pressure because of savvy clients, and this doesn't cut it anymore. So those are the main ones I would see that are going to be the growth ones in coming years.
Interesting. Thank you, Will. I have also noticed that there's a regional difference in what kind of services get outsourced, because if you read into this in the US, for example, in the US literature, some of the services that get outsourced includes things such as drafting pleadings and attending motions, which would be the US equivalent of applications and petitions here in the UK. So while in the UK, I think I have also seen that the services that are being outsourced out are what you have described just now. So that's there's definitely a regional difference as well. What I was also interested to hear about what you just said was that how there's a demand for construction experts, and I suppose that would be construction disputes, they tend to be arbitrated rather than litigated, right? So clearly that's there's it's not just about litigation, it's about dispute resolution generally. I think it's, if you'd agree with me, Will, whether that's arbitration, litigation, or mediation.
Absolutely it is. And what people seem not to realise, and we're seeing with clients as well, just to go off on a slight tangent, Alex, is the fact that expert witnesses can also be used to bring a dispute to a close early. So they can actually bring some sense to bear, if that's the right word to use, to a matter before it actually gets out of hand. And when you put that in the context of delivering value to a client, that's really important. It's really important for law firms to understand that these services can help bring an early resolution or help smooth the path and, let's say, sweeten the pill of any bills that come in that the client has to pay. They know that there's some value to be given. But in some ways, it is selling something that doesn't exist. So I always use the analogy of someone working on your car. You can see the mechanic working on your car and servicing it. What we supply, you can't see working until you've actually got it. So it's a difficult thing for clients to get their head around. But the more pressure that's becoming to bear on them by clients and saying, well, we could take our work anywhere, the more they're being forced to actually provide that discernible factor and that key differentiator.
Well, let's just go off on piste a little bit. You've used the word pressure a couple of times, pressure in the context, pressure on clients to obviously resolve disputes or in the context of disputes they face. Could you just expand a little bit on what types of pressure they face in your experience?
Sure, Alex. Yeah. I mean, there's different types of pressure experienced by different clients because there's different clients. At the end of the day, we can take two off the top of my head: the corporate client. The head of legal, or the corporate owner of a firm. They are going to have a budget. They're going to have budgetary pressures. They don't want to see their budget frittered away on legal expense or needless wasted expense. Doesn't matter if it's legal or not. They need to know where their budget is going. And interesting, this came from the 2008 crash. FDs and GCs in the big corporates had a lot of power, and they then turned around and said, well, hold on a minute, where is this money going? It's going down the drain. We need to get efficiency. And this is where I was at Riverview, we built in efficiency and the tech. So you've got that pressure from the big corporates and the larger SMEs. Then you've got the smaller man on the street. They've got the same thing, and it's all relevant. They're running a matter. They're running their business. If they enter into litigation, or they're on the cusp of litigation, or they're just engaging legals day to day, they've still got a budget. They've still got this pressure, this downward pressure coming in on them. Everybody knows costs has gone up and it affects them. So taking those two sort of polar ends of the spectrum, those are the sort of pressures they're getting. And when you look at them, they both instruct law firms, then the law firms need to react to that and be more efficient and show they're being more efficient. and actually say to the client, actually, we're delivering you a service. We're not just delivering the legal work. Anybody could do that. We're delivering this as well. So those are the sort of pressures I'm talking about. There's pressures on the client, and that filters down to the law firm.
Thank you, Will. This is very interesting, and I cannot help but ask the next question, which is to do with traditional billing models at law firms. And again, continuing to go off piste here a little bit, but the traditional billing model is obviously the hourly billing, and there's been a lot of talk in the market about moving away from that model and developing perhaps new billing structures and strategies. And do you see, first of all, I suppose my question is, what progress have you seen on that front in recent years, and what part does LPO play in that?
That's a really interesting question, Alex. And it's one I wasn't expecting, but it's actually a very interesting one. The whole point about the billing models is that I think there's a general acceptance here that where you can do a fixed price, then it does help the client give cost certainty. Doesn't matter whether they're big or small. The hourly rate, sometimes you cannot get away from that. You cannot get away from it. And that's totally accepted. That's not a problem. I think where the LPO and the RLCO model comes in is the fact that actually you can scope out better. You can give cost certainty to clients. So if you've got that technology there that you know is going to allow you to do something quicker, say, for example, e-discovery, you know that you can actually increase your ROI. If you can do that and then demonstrate to clients, actually, yes, we've got this tool here we can use. It's going to be this much an hour, but it's only going to take us this long. Or, yes, we can deliver a fixed price. And the reason we can do that is because we've invested in this. Then you're actually saying to the client, actually, we're helping you out here. We're sweetening the pill for you. We know this is going to cost. We get that, but we've actually worked over here to put something efficient in place and invest in something to your benefit. So I think that the whole thing around it is the fact that it can give clients cost certainty by taking a step back, going to the law firm say, actually, yes, we can scope this out easier and do it cheaper, or give a more certain cost.
Interesting. Thanks, Will. So you would say that there is more flexibility in the market these days. Would you agree with that statement in terms of what kind of billing structures law firms can offer clients, and obviously LPO helps in that with that?
Absolutely. You've got the rise of the boutique, which are built to drive the efficiency, the reason they set them up. You've got the ABS model as well, where legally trained people can own a law firm, drives commerciality. And then you go to the big boys in Silver Circle, and they've got to work more efficiently as well. There's competition there. So yes, it is true. And then you look at the litigation funding market, Alex, and I'm sure you'll bear me out on this to ask you a question. You want to know if you're funding a matter. You want to know where your money's going. You want to know that money is being spent in the most efficient way possible by the law firm. So why on earth wouldn't you say to the law firm, what have you got in place? Have you got e-discovery in place? Who have you got doing this work? So there's a flip side to it as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think, look, we obviously in the funding world, we have to be very commercial about our disputes and how funds are being spent on disputes. And so if there is an efficient team, sensible, efficient team that runs the case, that's a big plus in favor of a funding decision. You're absolutely right on that. What is the take-up of law firm clients towards LPO? Is there still some resistance, perhaps, or lack of understanding of the model, or what do you see in the market?
So the attitude of law firms towards sort of LPOs is varied. The bigger, let's take it from the top downwards. And I'll say that because it gets more positive as you get down. So if you go from the Magic to Silver Circle, they've got their own in-house e-discovery, they've got their own paralegals, etc. Yes, there's an uptake there, but they tend to do their own thing. Where we see that this works is the national firms. who I won't mention who we work with because it's indiscreet. It's not what we do. But there's the national firms, there's the boutiques, and there's the ABSs in the boutique world as well. That's where the uptake is most, to be honest with you. In the national firms, you're looking at department-wide. In the boutique firms, you're looking at firm-wide. And that's generally how we're seeing it go. And why do I say that? It's because they want to deliver value to their clients. As we go back to what we just discussed, clients want value, and they want values from their law firm. And again, going back, just to reiterate the point, this all came from the 2008 crash, and this has all filtered down. And it's now filtered down to a point where people have to react. And it's either change or die in some respects. So I was lucky enough to see the cutting edge and saw how FTSE 100s wanted to work. And I knew that would filter down. And I'm no prophetic, but it has. The other thing, as a story, just an anecdote, one interesting anecdote, which I never thought of when I set this up, was the fact that one of our clients is seeing what we deliver as an employee benefit. And why do I say that? It's because they are giving the tools to their fee earners and their paralegals to hit their targets and work better and more efficiently. In addition, the knock-on effect of that is it allows them to retain their talent. They can retain their talent that gives their client continuity. They retain the client and they retain their talent. And if they retain their talent, they stop it, hopefully walking out the door with a lot of work. So just to give an idea, it's something I never thought of, but clients are seeing it as an employee benefit, particularly in the rise of flexible working, where things can get disjointed.
That's very interesting. Thank you, Will. So it is a trend that is being more and more recognized, perhaps, in the market, that there's an additional benefit. It's not just efficiency, it's not just cost, but it's also talent retention and client retention inevitably. And that view, how accepted is it now in the market? Kind of the benefits, how recognized are they in the market?
Yeah, the recognition in the market is growing. It just shows in the numbers that we quoted at the beginning of this chat. It's growing, and it's growing because the obvious one here is AI. There should be a caution around that and an over-reliance on it. There are sort of a few stories coming out on that, which I won't broadcast, but you need to be careful with that. I think it's a tool, but like any tool, it's a tool. It's not the be-all and end-all. There are areas growing as we see the acceptance of it. There are areas growing, the general workflow automation side of it, for example. As I mentioned before, e-discovery, not just for litigation, as a tool to effectively run paper-heavy matters like an M&A, for example, things like that. So
data rooms, virtual data rooms, absolutely.
Data rooms, etc. Exactly. So yeah, as it becomes more accepted, more and more things are coming under the umbrella.
Interesting, Will. I wonder if you can share any examples of services that you've delivered that have really worked for your clients, just again, to help place LPO services in context for our listeners.
Of course, no problem at all. Obviously, I can't mention names, etc. And it's worth saying that we actually act, and all our terms and conditions are actually drafted with a regulatory approach to them, so they mirror what law firm would be presenting to their clients, etc. So in that respect, we keep everything very confidential, and I think the terms under the radar. There are numerous examples. I can give you one or two. We recently worked with a law firm client who wanted help with a client who's a US national who lent $2 million to a friend. I put that friend in commas, which the listeners won't see, but the friend went missing and ended up in the UK. The client approached the law firm and he wanted to recoup his money. And they said they needed litigation funding. So we looked at it and they said, well, you don't need litigation funding. First, you need to find out the strength of the case. And secondly, where is this person in the UK? And they didn't know. So the first thing was to find this person and find out what asset class the money was in. Then roll in counsel's advice, and then if it was favourable, roll in litigation funding. So we steered that process and helped the law firm navigate the waters and take that pain away, so they could concentrate on the client, and we put together all those elements for them. Another matter, which is very high profile in the construction sector, involving a very large company, representing board members. We were asked to source an expert that is not only rare, but who is also available. And we produced a piece of work to enable the law firm to adequately represent the board and mitigate any damage caused, and present this to the other side and use it to deal with any regulators and deal with the other side who are, want a better phrase, coming after them. The third one, using the power of three, we recently plugged in an e-discovery solution for a firm. Again, high profile. It was a claim against one of the largest companies in the world in that particular sector, in hospitality. We plugged in an e-discovery solution against the other side, this very large company. We took all the organisation on board with e-discovery, and it allowed the law firm and fee earners to concentrate on higher value complex matters, benefited the client. So our e-discovery ecosystem is plugged in, and we collected the data, we put it all into the system and provided the training, and then we will dispose of it at the conclusion of the matter if needed. So taking all those into account, and we like to think by leveraging the strength of other people in their field through our network and who we can deliver, we save the time, we save the costs, and reduce the workload and up the efficiency for the law firm. So it allows the fee earner to focus on what they're doing best.
So, Will, thank you very much for talking about and giving examples of where you've been able to help clients. That's very interesting. I just want to go back to something, again, in the context of the use of LPO services and the examples you've given. At the very beginning, you mentioned that there are still some areas where the take-up is perhaps not as great as in other areas. And so would you mind just, again, perhaps giving a few examples around that? Where do we see that happen, where the take-up is perhaps not where it should be?
Yeah, sure, Alex. I think it's more not a lack of take-up. It's actually in the life cycle of a matter that comes to a law firm. And it seems to be a trend that it's very reactive and not proactive. We provide a very proactive service. It can be reactive, but it's better used if it's proactive. So we see a continual trend that because of the time pressures of fee earners and partners, that they come to us a bit late in the day, but they should be coming to us first. So much the same way that it's certainly was in Chambers, get counsel on board immediately. In much the same way, it's the same as this. So you want to reduce your risk. Okay, running a law firm and working with clients is all about reducing the risk. If you can actually work proactively, you can reduce that risk. So what we see, for example, to give a story and real world examples. So we've recently, in the past few months, worked with a client. They had the service, it's there, they're using it. But then one of the fee earners comes to us and says, well, I need some litigation funding. Okay, that's great. Get the details of the case, the merits, etc. It's got good merits, etc. Well, when's the trial? Not 2 months. Well, that's no use to man or beast. So you're then on the back foot, and you then have to work very reactively and chase your tail and try and put something in place for them or help them when you've only got 2 months. That's not really good. Now, the antithesis of that is if you came to us first and said, what can we explore? You've got all that time. You're creating time for yourself. Another example is also overheads. No one wants a bank of paralegals sitting around, particularly if you're a boutique or a newly formed ABS, for example. No one wants a load of paralegals sitting around doing no work. The problem is if you just start sucking up your in-house resource on a matter and then find out you're slipping on other matters, what you should have done was actually said, right, this matter is going to suck up our in-house resource. Taborns, we would like 2 paralegals. Okay, fine. We will deploy them for you. That way, you are lessening your load. Another final example would be discovery. Finding out that there's just too much paperwork. You get a client moaning about the fees, about all the fees that are being generated by trawling through and making your finger wet, turning all these pages. Can we look at e-discovery? Putting e-discovery in place halfway through a matter is no use to man or beast either. So it's about what I'm trying to say with these examples. It's being proactive. It's actually, if you've got the service and we're happy to deploy the service, use it. Use it. It's simple to use. And if you've got any LPO provider, go to them first.
Thank you. Well, I think this resonates very, very much with what I do as well in the litigation finding and enforcement space. It always helps to speak and to think about these things in advance and get your ducks lined up early. Even if, all it can take sometimes is just a conversation with us or with the likes of you about what options there are on the table, just so that the client can start thinking about those, and that really helps, like you say, avoid situations where you have a trial coming up and the client has run out of funds. No, thank you so much. That's very helpful. Will, one last question from me. You said at the beginning, or kind of halfway through our conversation, you said that you're not prophetic, but I was wondering whether there are any prophecies you can make in relation to the where LPO market will go in the next 3 years. What kind of novel services might be developed, or what services are being developed as we speak?
Yeah, I'm not Nostradamus, but I'll have a stab at it, Alex. Obviously, I would say it wouldn't I, but I can see it going stratospheric. But I think it goes down to what firms want. So let's use the 2 words, hot topics. They aren't necessarily what we offer, but it's more aligned to what the firm's goals are that we're working with. If they want to be efficient, reduce costs and increase profitability, and stop their talent from exiting and potentially taking work, then a lot of the changes will lie with the lay client, because the firm will have to change to what the lay client wants, or the firm are aware of what they can offer. So I don't see anything particularly going stratospheric, but a good law firm, a good solicitor will identify what the client needs, basically. They will also be speaking to the lay client, and they will engage with the lay client, and the lay client will be aware of what they want if they're savvy. So while there's no growth in any particular area that I see, I think it will grow as a model generally by awareness of law firms knowing that it's there and delivering value, and clients knowing that it's there and wanting value.
Understood. Thank you so much, Will. It has been very helpful, incredibly interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Alex. Been good to chat, and thanks for having me.